Hello, David Moore here for another episode of Ask the Experts, and I've got two wonderful experts here today with me, Rene and Bob Nelson, and I have had the pleasure of knowing Bob for how many years? Probably almost 30 years.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
Since 1990. It's been a while. We're not that old, though.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah. And Rene, it's been probably 20-some-odd years now with you, too.
Yes, absolutely.
It's great to have you both here, and thanks for all the great times through the years. What we had today, we had a CCIM meeting, and we talked about senior housing. We talked about some of the development going on coast to coast in that world, but you two are a lot closer to sort of the opposite side of the spectrum, the student housing. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to see if you could share with our viewers a little bit of what's going on with the student housing world and what's happened with Eugene. Rene, you've done some big projects down there over the years, and I know you've got some stuff on your plate too. So would you mind telling us a little bit about what you got going on? And Bob, I know you're going to have something to add too. So I'll sit back and let you guys tell us a little bit about what's happened in Eugene and what do you see happening nationwide, who the players are, and if there's a shift someplace, roughly what you think it's going to be.
Sure. Right now, what we're seeing in the Eugene market is there's lots of national student housing developers that are interested in our market. And I really think that's because of what's happening with the Phil Knight Science Center and Hayward Field. They're really going to transition Hayward Field to look like a European track. They're trying to bring in some high athletes, and it'll look great for the University of Oregon. It really is putting us back on the map. You know, for years our football program was at the pinnacle, and through some changes there, we've kind of slipped off, but we still have a high caliber of sports program, whether it's track and field, basketball,
sure.
Women's softball. I mean, we're really at the top with competing with all the other national schools, and that keeps us on the radar for the developers. Part of the issue that we've had with the University of Oregon is their enrollment stays pretty steady. They haven't built a lot of additional classrooms yet. The Phil Knight campus will really add a huge benefit. They anticipate that's going to add about 750 students and professors in total, just at the scratch of the beginning of it. So we know that that's going to add some additional students. The national student housing developers look at our market and know that we still have a large influx of out-of-state investors as well as international students that want to come to our market. So we really have two different dynamics. We've got the older complexes that were built in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And those are your typical 3-story wood frame apartment complexes. Yeah. Those are just filled with a waiting list. And then you've got the nicer complexes where the rents are a little higher, about
the brand new complexes.
The brand new complexes. But, they're about $200 a bedroom higher. So not every student can afford that. But
not every student can afford it. Not every parent can afford it. Because I know you had a duck, and I had a duck graduate, and you had a duck graduate, and I've got 2 more ducks down there. So I think I had one in one of the facilities that you worked on, and she was very happy, very impressed with the place. And then my older daughter, Celia, she stayed in some of the old beater houses, but they all have stories to tell and great memories. But it's definitely a different marketplace. And you talk about the softball down in Oregon and the women's softball, and I mean that field is about the premier space in the whole campus. I mean, it's for an athletic facility, and what is right adjacent to it. I mean, what was built right before that went in across the street.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing. We've got local developers that have built some smaller complexes, and those are full. And now, with, like you're talking about, with what's coming with the track and field and some different things, I mean, we're just starting to see some pretty amazing student housing developments. With those larger national developers, a lot of times what they bring to the table is the amenity package. whether it's free tanning or rooftop pools and sand volleyball pits, that's where that student gets that quality of life. That's what the students call it, quality of life. Mom and dad look at it and go, wow, you're going to drain my bank account.
That's the country club.
Well, I think you'd agree. You start walking through the parking lots and you wish you could be one of the students.
Yes.
I mean, the parking lots in the newer facilities that are big, you've got lots of foreign students here, and they've got lots of really nice cars. I mean, you've got student housing with Porsches and Mercedes, and I've actually even seen some Lamborghinis in there too.
Yeah.
So if you like that kind of thing, But that's really amazing.
Not to like that?
Yeah. So we just got to figure out and tell everybody how they can make enough money to like that kind of thing, to get that kind of thing, right?
Right.
So
the campus is a wide range of age groups, sizes. In some instances, back in 2005 to 2000, somewhere in that range, a lot of 4-bedroom apartment units were created. And in part as an answer to a restrictive parking requirement that you had to have X number of parking spaces per unit. And if you went with more bedrooms, you still only had to have so many parking spaces per unit. So that reduces the amount of parking that you would have to provide. And became an interesting thing. Those properties hit a bit of a dilemma in that they didn't have the amenity package that was generated in the most recent apartment complexes. It has been an interesting back and forth situation. However, there seems to be a chicken for every roost. And it becomes an interesting thing from an investor's standpoint. We have people that are maybe more concerned with the pre-owned, older, lower price per unit complex because they make greater sense from a rate of return standpoint. That
value add type thing.
I totally agree with that, yeah. That value add is a great play in the market.
But there really aren't any slummy things on campus, as I would perceive it. Everybody that saw slum, they bought it and fixed it up, and it's not slum, allowed to slide back in its condition. Maybe a better way to say it.
So it's sort of funny. We were talking about cars a second ago. I'm going to bring it back. I like cars, so we're going to bring it back to cars. So you're talking about facilities where they're saying you got to have a minimum number of cars, and here we are. If we look at Multnomah County, they're saying you can only have a max number of parking spots, which irritates everybody else.
Yeah,
but so you're looking both sides of this whole thing.
Right.
One of the comments that they made during the presentation today was the old classic location comment,
right.
And I think he was sort of saying, well, it's not as much, maybe location as it is where the jobs are these days. And it was sort of interesting after the election, you think, okay, people would call up and say, well, where looks good? What do you think is going to be a good spot? And you think about, okay, who won that election, what he had talked about doing, and we're starting to see changes in all this, the industrial America is coming alive, right?
Yep.
So you've got a situation where, the housing...
If there's income to generate to pay rent, and if there is no income being generated because the jobs aren't there, there's no money to pay rent. I mean, it's that simple. Focus on employment base and then focus on location. And if you say, hey, the community doesn't have a large enough employment base, well, guess what? There's not enough people to pay rent, bottom line. Yeah. You might focus on a little different market or a little different asset type. Yeah. But it is absolutely true. And I've had that as part of my portfolio design as I look at investment strategies for individuals to continually look at what's the health of the economy, what's the health of the job market.
Well, so we look at we're talking about student housing, and you start looking at student attendance, the tuition costs, and we're starting to look at minimum wage issues here in this state, which they talked about an impact on the university that's dramatic. I mean, they're talking about increasing tuition a whole bunch just because of that minimum wage, and anybody that was getting 15 is no longer going to be happy at 15, and so on and so forth.
But it's interesting, the minimum wage doesn't really produce much of a monthly income. We discussed that one a little bit ago, that that's a tough situation. So it's one thing to have how many jobs at the minimum wage level and how many jobs at the skilled level that will also start to dictate the health of a local region.
Yeah, I would agree.
So we've got a world where it's been Tracktown USA and it's going to be Tracktown Earth, I guess. Huh?
Yeah,
Is that the deal?
That's really true.
Yeah.
That's what's
It is
happening.
going to be pretty amazing. Old Hayward Field being knocked down and creating this huge arena. I mean, it looks almost like something that Roman chariot runs should go through. And again, we're very blessed that Phil Knight was a student and graduated, ran for Bill Bowerman, and went on, the two of them, to form Nike. And he brings a huge amount of money back to make his campus the campus of the nation, possibly the world. And it's beautiful. It's absolutely amazing. Without him, we would be, I'm not sure what I would equate it to.
Average.
Average, right. And we're not average.
Well, yeah, Eugene's definitely benefited from him. Stanford's benefited a lot from him.
Yes,
Morgan
indeed.
State has.
Right,
PSU has.
absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah,
OHSU
Stanford, right.
has. So,
Yes.
yeah, he's definitely an asset to our just to the country, actually.
Right.
But I was going to say
Absolutely.
to our region, but it's beyond that. So, but thank you very much. And once again, David Moore with Bob and Rene Nelson, and here to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you.